The briefing room fell dead silent as Colonel Martinez crumpled up Lieutenant Sarah Chen's intelligence report and tossed it into the trash. Satellite data doesn't lie, but neither does experience, Lieutenant. We stick to the original mission plan. But what the colonel didn't know was that Sarah had discovered something in those grainy satellite images that would mean the difference between life and death for 200 American soldiers deployed in hostile territory. Sometimes the most junior officer in the room sees what decades of experience can miss, and sometimes being right when everyone else is wrong is the heaviest burden of all. Lieutenant Sarah Chen adjusted her glasses and stared at the satellite feed for the 100th time that morning. The grainy black and white images on her monitor told a story that made her stomach churn. Heat signatures clustered in patterns that didn't match the intelligence briefing she'd received just hours earlier. As a signals intelligence analyst stationed at Forward Operating Base Resolute, Sarah had spent 18 months learning to read the digital tea leaves that could mean the difference between a successful mission and a body count. The official intelligence reports sitting on her desk painted a clear picture. Minimal enemy presence in Sector 7, perfect conditions for the planned supply convoy that would deliver critical medical supplies to an isolated outpost. 200 soldiers depended on that convoy reaching its destination safely. But the satellite imagery from the past 6 hours told a completely different story. Vehicle movements, communication intercepts, and thermal readings all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. The enemy had repositioned overnight, turning what should have been a routine supply run into a carefully orchestrated ambush. Sarah's fingers trembled slightly as she cross-referenced the data one more time. Me. Fresh out of the Defense Intelligence Agency's Advanced Analytics program, she knew her technical skills were sharp, but she also knew that questioning senior leadership required more courage than she'd ever summoned before. The convoy was scheduled to depart in 3 hours. Colonel Martinez, the base commander with 25 years of combat experience, had already approved the mission based on the existing intelligence assessment. Challenging that decision meant challenging not just a superior officer, but an entire chain of command that operated on trust, hierarchy, and the hard-earned wisdom of battle-tested veterans. Sarah printed out the satellite images and her analysis, her hands steady despite the weight of what she was about to do. The walk to Colonel Martinez's office felt like marching toward her own court-martial. The hallways of the command center buzzed with pre-mission activity. Soldiers checking equipment, officers reviewing route maps, medics preparing trauma kits. Everyone moved with the confident efficiency of a well-oiled military machine, completely unaware that their intelligence foundation might be fatally flawed. "Colonel Martinez, I need to speak with you about the convoy mission," Sarah announced as she knocked on the open door frame. The colonel looked up from his mission briefing, his weathered face showing the kind of patient tolerance reserved for junior officers who didn't yet understand how the real world worked. "Lieutenant Chen, isn't it? What's on your mind?" His tone was friendly but busy, the voice of a commander juggling a dozen critical decisions simultaneously. Sarah spread her printed satellite images across his desk, pointing to the heat signatures and movement patterns she'd identified. "Sir, I've been analyzing the overnight satellite feeds, and I'm seeing significant enemy repositioning in Sector 7. The intelligence assessment from yesterday appears to be outdated. I believe the convoy route has been compromised." Colonel Martinez glanced at the images, his expression shifting from patience to mild irritation. "Lieutenant, I appreciate your diligence, but these thermal readings could be anything. Wildlife, civilian traffic, equipment malfunctions. Our intelligence comes from multiple sources, not just satellite imagery. Captain Williams and his team have 20 years of experience interpreting regional threat patterns. But Colonel, if you look at this pattern here," Sarah persisted, pointing to a cluster of heat signatures, "these vehicles moved into position during the communications blackout window. The timing is too perfect to be coincidental. They know about our convoy." The colonel's patience finally wore thin. He crumpled up Sarah's printed analysis and tossed it into the trash can beside his desk. "Satellite data doesn't lie, but neither does experience, Lieutenant. We stick to the original mission plan. Captain Williams has run intelligence operations in this region since before you graduated high school. I trust his assessment over computer printouts." Sarah felt her face flush with a mixture of embarrassment and desperate frustration. "Sir, I understand the chain of command, but 200 soldiers are depending on accurate intelligence. What if I'm right? What if you're wrong? Colonel Martinez countered, standing up to signal the conversation was over. What if we delay this mission based on unconfirmed satellite readings and the outpost runs out of medical supplies? What if soldiers die because we second-guessed solid intelligence over the concerns of a lieutenant who's been in country for 18 months? Lieutenant Chen, I respect your dedication, but experience trumps enthusiasm every time. The convoy leaves at 1400 hours as planned. Sarah saluted and left the office, her dismissed report still crumpled in the colonel's trash can. But as she walked back to her workstation, her mind was already racing ahead to contingency plans. If the official channels wouldn't listen, maybe there were unofficial ones that would. 200 lives hung in the balance, and sometimes being right when everyone else is wrong means finding the courage to act on your convictions, even when the system fails to support you. The satellite feeds continued streaming across her monitor, each new image confirming her worst fears about what lay ahead for the convoy that would roll out in less than 3 hours. The convoy of 12 vehicles rolled out of Forward Operating Base Resolute at exactly 1400 hours, just as Colonel Martinez had ordered. Sarah watched from the communications center, her stomach knotted with dread as she tracked their progress through the base's monitoring systems. Sergeant First Class Rodriguez, the convoy commander, had been briefed on the original intelligence assessment: minimal threat, routine supply run, expected arrival at the outpost by 1800 hours. But Sarah hadn't given up. While she couldn't officially override the mission, she could monitor the convoy's progress and prepare for the worst-case scenario she knew was coming. Her fingers flew across her keyboard as she accessed real-time satellite feeds, drone reconnaissance data, and communications intercepts. Every piece of information confirmed her analysis. Enemy forces had positioned themselves along the convoy route with military precision. 20 minutes into the mission, Sarah's worst fears began materializing. The lead vehicle's radio operator reported unusual vehicle activity near checkpoint Delta, exactly where Sarah's satellite imagery had shown suspicious heat signatures 12 hours earlier. Base, this is Convoy Alpha 7. We're seeing possible hostile movement approximately 2 clicks northeast of our position. Request updated intelligence assessment. Sarah grabbed her headset and switched to the emergency coordination frequency. This is Lieutenant Chen at Base Intelligence, Convoy Alpha 7. You need to abort your current route immediately. I'm tracking at least 40 enemy combatants positioned along your planned path. They're waiting for you at the next valley crossing. But protocol demanded that such warnings come through official channels. Sergeant Rodriguez's response crackled through the radio. Lieutenant, I need that assessment confirmed through Colonel Martinez before I can alter mission parameters. We're proceeding as planned, unless ordered otherwise by command authority. Sarah's heart raced as she realized the convoy was walking directly into the trap she'd predicted. Official channels had failed, but soldiers were about to die unless someone acted fast. She made a decision that would either save lives or end her military career. She contacted Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, a communications specialist she'd worked with on previous missions, who was monitoring frequencies at a sister base 30 kilometers away. Santos, this is Chen. I need you to patch me through to any available air support in Sector 7. We have a convoy about to hit a major ambush, and Command isn't listening to my intelligence assessment. Chen, you know I can't authorize that kind of request without proper command approval, Santos replied, but her tone suggested she understood the gravity of the situation. Maria, remember that intelligence workshop where we talked about trusting your gut when the data screams danger? This is that moment. 200 soldiers are about to drive into a kill zone, and I'm the only one who saw it coming. I need you to trust me the way the system won't. The radio went silent for 30 seconds. That felt like 30 minutes. Finally, Santos's voice returned. I'm patching you through to Captain Hayes in Apache 7-7. He's running reconnaissance missions in your sector. But Chen, if you're wrong about this, we're both looking at disciplinary action. Captain Hayes' voice came through clear and professional. This is Apache 7-7. Who am I speaking with, and what's your emergency? Captain Hayes, this is Lieutenant Chen, Forward Intelligence Base Resolute. I have satellite confirmation of a large enemy force positioned to ambush Convoy Alpha 7. They're approximately 15 minutes from contact. I need immediate air reconnaissance of the valley crossing at grid coordinates November 7-4 Alpha. Captain Hayes didn't hesitate. Within minutes, his Apache helicopter was repositioning for visual confirmation of Sarah's intelligence assessment. His voice crackled back through the radio with urgent intensity. Base intelligence. This is Apache 77, confirming major hostile presence at the coordinates you provided. I count at least 36 enemy combatants with anti-vehicle weapons positioned for ambush. How did your ground intelligence miss this? Sarah's vindication came with no satisfaction, only desperate urgency. Apache 77, can you provide immediate support to redirect Convoy Alpha 7 to the alternate route through Sector 9? Already on it, Lieutenant. Convoy Alpha 7. This is Apache 77 with emergency route change. Abort your current path immediately and proceed to alternate route Bravo. You have confirmed hostile contact waiting at your next checkpoint. The next hour unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance between technology, courage, and split-second decision-making. Captain Hayes provided air cover as the convoy rerouted through the safer passage Sarah had identified in her original analysis. The medical supplies reached their destination without a single casualty, while enemy forces waited in vain at their carefully prepared ambush site. When Colonel Martinez finally learned the full story, he found Sarah in the communications center, still monitoring the convoy's safe arrival. The crumpled intelligence report had been smoothed out and placed on her desk, with handwritten notes from Captain Hayes confirming every detail of her analysis. "Lieutenant Chen," the colonel said quietly, "it appears I owe you an apology. And more importantly, 200 soldiers owe you their lives." He paused, looking at the satellite imagery with new respect. Sometimes experience needs to make room for fresh eyes and new perspectives. Your analysis was textbook perfect, and your initiative under pressure was exactly what we needed when the system failed. Sarah looked up from her monitors, exhaustion and relief evident in her eyes. "Sir, I was just doing my job. The satellites don't lie, and neither do the soldiers depending on accurate intelligence. Sometimes being right when everyone else is wrong isn't about being smarter. It's about being willing to stand up for what the data tells you, even when it's uncomfortable." The story of Lieutenant Sarah Chen reminds us that heroism in the military doesn't always come from the front lines of combat. Sometimes it comes from a junior officer who has the courage to challenge authority when lives are at stake, who trusts her training and expertise even when the system doesn't trust her. In an age where technology and human judgment must work together, the most important battles are often fought not with weapons, but with data, determination, and the moral courage to act when others won't listen. Every branch of our military depends on professionals like Sarah, analysts, technicians, and specialists whose quiet dedication and expert is protect those who serve on the front lines. They represent the best of military service, technical excellence combined with unwavering commitment to the mission and the safety of their fellow service members. If this story of courage, determination, and the power of standing up for what's right has inspired you, please subscribe to our channel for more true stories of military heroes whose service goes beyond the battlefield. Honor their sacrifice by sharing these stories, and remember that sometimes the greatest acts of heroism happen when someone has the courage to be right when everyone else is wrong. Hit that subscribe button to hear more stories of the men and women who serve with distinction, whether in the heat of combat or in the quiet dedication of technical expertise that keeps our forces safe around the world.